Hello everyone, I'm Kevin Kopp. Over the past few weeks, we have been talking with Temple administrators, coaches, and student athletes about Temple Athletics' response to COVID-19, particularly as it affects the health and well-being of our student athletes. And I think no person exemplifies that more than today's guest, our Senior Associate Athletic Director for Mental Health, Dr. Stephany Coakley. Dr. Coakley, thank you for taking some time to chat today.
Thanks, Kevin. It's always my pleasure to talk about our student athletes and what we're doing to support them.
So let's get right into it. From a purely operational standpoint, obviously it's not news anymore that we're not meeting in person. We don't have that ability to communicate face to face. We've taken all of our operations here to Zoom. What is this like for you? Because obviously when you're meeting with a student athlete, I'm sure that face-to-face and that person-to-person interaction is so important. So how have things shifted over operationally to this new online remote world that we're all inhabiting?
Well, interestingly enough, telehealth has been in my world for a number of years now. So as it pertains to the shift, it's not been that great a shift for me. Obviously, it's been a great shift for our student athletes. They don't come into the sessions anymore in person. But for me as the provider, using the virtual platform is something I'm pretty familiar with.
Is there a difference in how you have to approach that session, or does it really just it's the same thing, you're just doing it through a different medium, or are there actual different ways that you need to kind of conduct how those things go?
I think there are certain cues that are not available to us as providers using a virtual platform. For example, if I'm working with a student athlete and they tend to fidget with their hands, that's something that I can't see. So with that being said, we have to ask more questions to get the information that is unavailable to us visually. Another thing that we have to do is that we have to be a little bit more, animated, and so that they can really see that we're paying attention. We have to use the tools that are available to us. So one of the things that I've been using is the whiteboard, which is making it, in our offices, we have whiteboards, and so that's not anything that's uncommon to our student athletes. It's just another way to do what we typically do. But we've been able to adapt what we do on campus and in the office to the virtual platform pretty nicely.
Let's talk about the broader student athlete population, beyond the ones that you are counseling directly. What are just the points of stress or the points of pain that you're hearing about generally? Obviously, this has been such a sudden change that everyone has been thrust into. So, if you were looking globally at what some of those issues are that you're dealing with, what comes up in those conversations that you've had with our student athlete population?
Initially, there was a great deal of loss, grief and loss. Not necessarily the loss of an actual loved one, even though as this pandemic has progressed, I'm sure that some of our student athletes have experienced that. But the loss of seasons, graduation, identity, like social life, coming from being independent on campus to being back with mom and dad where independence might not be as available. So there was a great deal of that initially. The transition for student athletes was probably pretty abrupt, as it was for everybody. Other things are time management. Athletes are accustomed to having very, 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 very full schedules, which in some ways is stressful, but in other ways it helps them to maintain some of the motivation. And their schedules came to a screeching halt. So helping our student athletes establish a routine of their own was something that we talked about earlier on in this process. Having a dedicated sleep time, because their schedules have changed so much and there is more opportunity to stay up later because there are fewer things to cause them to get up, like lift or class. They were maybe potentially sleeping later or going to bed later. So just talking to them about sleep hygiene, talking to them about maintaining their connections, the things that they're accustomed to doing on campus, they weren't able to do. Something as simple as like go to SAC for a coffee or go to have dinner at Morgan with your teammates. Those things went away, and those things were missing. Whether they knew it or not consciously, they were missing. And so talking to them about what's missing and how they could realistically remedy or, replace those things, whether it was set up a FaceTime or a Zoom with your friends and literally have a cup of coffee or have a meal. Maybe not every day like they did on campus, but maybe do Taco Tuesdays with your friends from wherever they're located, just to bring some semblance of their former life before March the 16th.
Do you anticipate then something of the reverse being true as well, that once we get back to an on-campus life, that now the quasi-routine that our student-athletes are in now gets upended again, even though it's a return to somewhat normalcy? Do you anticipate there being some stressors there, even though I know getting back is something that we're all looking forward to, that comes with some potential pitfalls as well?
I do anticipate, just depending on when they return. I anticipate that there will be some need to make another transition back to life on campus, because they have been able to go to bed later and they haven't had to get up for lift. Like, habits take time to form and habits take time to unform, if you will. So just breaking some of the habits that were necessary while they were at home, there'll need to be a period of adjustment to break and get back into their routines of what's next. Because I'm not sure we're going to go back to normal. So I keep using this language, not normal, it's next. What's next?
I'll get you out of here on this question. One of the things that has come up, I think, in just about each and every one of these interviews we've done, is the resiliency of our student-athlete population as a whole. The fact that they've handled this change more or less with grace and with courage, and that they've met it head on. Dealing with the population that you've dealt with, do you see that being the case? Has this given you an appreciation for our student-athletes' ability to handle a change that really none of us saw coming?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, athletes have to deal with adversity on the regular. And the reason we develop resilience is through adversity. And so whether they knew it or not, they had many of the tools, skills, and abilities that one would need in order to be resilient at a time when a lot of adversity is afoot. I mean, to be quite honest, they have been very impressive in terms of the way they have dealt with and adapted to their new and their current state of being at home, maintaining coursework, maintaining meetings and contacts with their teams, maintaining study hall and tutoring sessions, while also managing whatever's going on at home, which, to be quite honest, as athletic department staff, we have no clue about. So they are very resilient, our student athletes are, and it's because they are athletes and they've had many opportunities, whether it be through injury and returning to their sport, or whether it be through having to earn their way onto a starting lineup, or whether it be through not doing well in classes but having to maintain their academic standing in order to maintain their athletic opportunities. They have had numerous opportunities to develop the tools to be resilient.
Well, I don't think that's a surprising answer, but it is a gratifying one to hear that perspective. And Dr. Coakley, I know, on behalf of all of us and all of our student athletes, we thank you for everything that you've done, especially in this time of tumult and change. I think it's enormously appreciated.
Oh, it's my pleasure. As I mentioned, this is what I love to do.
Well, that is Dr. Stephany Coakley joining us, and we remind you that periodically throughout the coming weeks and months, we will be talking with Temple administrators, student athletes, and coaches about how the university continues to adapt and evolve, and as Dr. Coakley said, preparing for a return to next. So we thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon.